Hello everyone, my name is History Nuggets, and today we are going to be talking about the Russo-Japanese War, the war that brought about the upbringing of the collapse of the Russian Empire and the massive rise of the newly formed Japanese Empire. The rise of the Russo-Japanese War would begin with the region of Manchuria, where in 1895, Russia would force Japan to give back the Liaodong Peninsula to China, only for Russia to take it right afterward. Moreover, the Russians building major railways resulted in more anger from Japan, who saw Manchuria as in their future sphere of influence. Russian involvement in the Boxer Rebellion also strained heavily, and the Japanese Empire began to be heavily disrespected. Both empires also began heavily investing in naval power in the Pacific, mainly around Port Arthur. In 1904, the Japanese Empire, seeing these Russian aggressions, would launch a major surprise attack on Port Arthur, starting the Russo-Japanese War. Tsar Nicholas II of Russia was stunned by these news. Hearing about this surprise attack without a formal declaration of war, he was confident that Japan would not be able to do much during the war, almost seeming unfazed. Russia would then declare war 8 days later. The Battle of Port Arthur would occur on the 8th of February, where a major Japanese fleet under Hayashito would attack the Russian ships, heavily damaging many of the Russian ships. The next morning, more naval battles were fought, resulting in the Russians being scared to go out of shore. The Japanese would later land in Korea near Incheon, occupying Hanseong and then later the rest of Korea. The Japanese would then after blockade Port Arthur, sinking several steamers in the water to cause issues in Russian ships sending off. The Russians would hire Admiral Makarov to take control of the Pacific Fleet. 2 Russian dreadnoughts would take off, with both sinking into Japanese mines. The Russians would then do the same thing, attacking 2 Japanese ships with mines and sinking 2 of them with luring them. The siege of Port Arthur would then occur, with Japanese troops trying numerous frontal assaults, with many Japanese deaths. The Japanese artillery, however, would help them advance, and on top of fortified hilltops saw the Japanese artillery rain hellfire on the Russians, taking out 4 ships. These sinkings resulted in the last of the Russian fleet in the Pacific. The Russian army was sent to help the land battle at Port Arthur, but they would fight at the Battle of Liaoyang instead, where they would lose and retreat. After this, the Russian effort in the city would go away, and Major General N.T. Stressel would surrender later on. More battles would occur throughout the rest of 1904, with much resulting in major Japanese victories, such as the previous Battle of the Yalu River, the first land battle of the war. This battle would end in a Japanese victory, being the first major victory an Asian would have over a European in years. In 1905, the Japanese advance would kick off, fighting at the Battle of Sendapu, where General Oskar Grippenberg of the Russian army would surprise the Japanese, leaving the battle inconclusive. After 2 more major battles of Mukden, which saw the Russians almost entirely encircled and losing 90,000 soldiers, and the Battle of Tsushima, which saw the Russian Baltic fleet make it to Japanese from the Baltic Sea, only to get destroyed by the Japanese outside of Vladivostok, the Japanese would occupy Sakhalin Island to force the Russians into suing for peace. The Treaty of Portsmouth would be signed, with the USA overseeing the peace treaty, which would result in Russia giving Japan half of Sakhalin, Port Arthur, and would leave Manchuria, resulting in Japan having full influence in the region. The Japanese Empire would after solidify itself as a major power from a global standpoint, while the Russians were utterly embarrassed, leading to much of the actions of the Winter Revolutions to come. This is History Nuggets. Thank you for watching.